Hey everyone, Rob Daniel here with 413 Organization, one of the fastest growing organizations in history in the real estate industry. You should be part of this. Today we're going to be talking about expanding versus contracting. In just a couple of minutes, I'm going to give you 5 old-fashioned ways of expanding and moving forward that you may have forgotten. You know, I know it's going to be typical, but you may have just forgotten to really get up in the morning and start doing some of these things. And then I'm going to tell you 5 newer ways, and I say newer ways, been around for quite a long time, with social media that you should embrace. And you see the whole world right now seems to be contracting versus expanding. And everybody seems to be telling you, especially in real estate, oh, you need to cut expenses. Oh, you need to do this. Now, don't get me wrong. You do need to cut fluffy expenses. However, we're going to talk about expanding versus the contracting. I know there are books out there that are written, there's speakers out here that are talking about you've got to cut, you got to cut, you got to cut, you got to cut, you got to cut. I love my guy, Grant Cardone, that says, what are you cutting for? Expand, don't contract. You know, start doing things that other people aren't willing to do. And again, I want to say some of these things. You know, here's what I would say to every single one of you. Okay, listen to this carefully. Get off your asset and go do something. Get on Zoom, teach classes, do those type of things, but get in front of people, go sell some houses. Well, what are the 5 things, the old-fashioned ways? I'm going to give you those 5 things. You might want to write them down. Number 1, what about expireds? You know, I always find it very interesting whenever I was teaching classes and seminars, and when I do these things, I ask everybody to raise their hand. How many of you call expireds and for sale by owners sharp? I'm saying sharp every single day, every day, and nobody raises their hand. And then I asked the question, if you called them for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, expireds and for sale by owners, every day for the rest of this year and for the next 6 months, would you make more money? And most everybody says yes. Well, then here's what I don't understand. You know, expireds and for sale by owners, we all agree want to sell their house. We are realtors that sell houses. What a great match. What a great match. So I think you need to get back on those phones. You need to get back into the groove of calling those people that want to sell their house. Expireds. If you have to go out there and door knock them and leave a message on their door, whatever you got to do, say, hey, I am the realtor for you. And then you got for sale by owners. 85% of all for sale by owners do not advertise in Zillow or forsalebyowner.com. 85%. And then here's the statistic that you need to know. 75% of the 85% that don't advertise in those places list with a real estate agent. So what are you going to do about that? So that's another way you could go take massive, massive action and don't retreat from it. What about your geographic area? Have you thought about going into neighborhoods and taking on those neighborhoods at a high level? Do things every month with them. You know, there's always a national holiday. No matter, you could go look it up. Every day has some kind of a national, I don't care if it's National Hot Dog Day, National Donut Day, Pancake Day, whatever it is. However, you could do some great things inside of a geographic area. Let me give you number 4, with that. How about having 50 people at your next open house? That's right. Well, you forgot about open houses? Why don't you do open houses every weekend? However, don't do boring open houses. If you're only getting 1 or 2 people in your open house, that's a boring open house. You got to get some excitement behind it. It's got to be a circus. It's got to be an event. Don't ever call it an open house again. Call it open house event. And I promise you, your brain will start saying, okay, what do I do with an open house event? What does that look like? Well, nobody else is doing it in my neighborhood. Nobody else is doing open houses like that. Exactly. You're going to expand and not retreat. You're going to do things that other people aren't willing to do. And then the last thing, I'm going to ask you to do this. However many people that you have in your database, whether it be 200 or whether it be 2,000, I'm going to ask you to do this. Put an extra 0 on the end of it. Whoa, put a 0 on the end of it. If you got 200, that says, 2,000. If you got 2,000, that says 20,000. What if, I want to ask you the question, how do you feel right now by putting the 0 in there and having that many people in your database? Oh, a lot of work? Oh my gosh. Overwhelmed? Don't ever use that word. Remember, overwhelmed equals nothing. Your brain will start shutting down everything that's out there. However, what would you do if you had another 0 on the end of it and those people in your database? You know, it's time to start working that database. It's time to start picking up the telephone and calling each one of those people. Why don't you get your top 20% out of your database and say, you know what? I'm going to start calling them tomorrow morning. I'm going to take action. And matter of fact, I'm not going to take a do nothing action or retreat action or just normal action. I'm going to take massive, massive, massive action. Now, those are the 5 old-fashioned ways of doing business. And I say old-fashioned, they still work. That's the basics. I remember the days when all of this really, I did these things and they worked for me and I was selling a lot of houses. Now, for all of you that are just social media conscious, and I think everybody should be, for a long time I resisted it. However, now I'm embracing it. And guess what? I have made a decision. By you just watching this right here, I've made a decision to go massive, massive, massive action into the social media world. That's right. You're going to see me all over the place. You're going to see me on YouTube. I just got a YouTube channel here, as you can see. And man, I tell you, you've got to do YouTube. There are people out here that are selling real estate just through YouTube. They're selling houses through YouTube. They've got followings. What about Instagram? You've got to go after that. You've got to go after Facebook. It's very interesting about Facebook. You know, people still are on Facebook. You're on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. We do Facebook ads. We do all kind of things on Facebook. However, if you ask my grandkids, you know, what are they on? And I tell them, they looked at me and they said, what are you on, Papa? And I said, I'm on Facebook. They're like, you're old. I mean, in other words, I'm old because I'm on Facebook. And they're like telling me about Instagram. They're telling me about TikTok. What about TikTok? You know, I know some people don't like TikTok. I know there's a lot of things that are being said about that. However, that is a way. I've met a couple of people that's all they do is TikTok and do business that way. For you that are business minded, what about LinkedIn? So what do you have? YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. Those are the social media outlets that you can start right now. Oh, does it take time? Yes. Does it take an effort? Absolutely. Does it take time, like if you're going to do a YouTube channel, to be able to sit there on the weekends and create 5, 10, 15 videos to be able to put out there on YouTube, maybe of your houses that are for sale, maybe of the things that you are doing? Absolutely, it takes time. But that's the separation from all of those that are contracting to all of those that are expanding. So with that understanding and that in mind, what are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do now? Expanding is what you should be thinking about. Don't contract. Oh, is there a time to contract? Let me just say, yes, there's a time to stop and say, okay, is there any fluff that I have in my budget? That's why I do the class. I teach a class called Learn the 4 Models in 4 months and Net $1 million in 4 years. I have hundreds of people in these classes. Net $1 million in 4 years? Yes. If you learn to master the 4 models, what are the 4 models? Well, it's the economic model, it's the budget model, it's the organization model, and it is the lead generation model. That's why I do that class, is because we look at your budget model, we look at your economic model, and we say, okay, what is it that you can, that's fluff, that is not giving you your ROI, your return on your income? What about your ROL, your return on life, time, that kind of thing? So again, those are things that you do have to look at. At the same time, you've got to have an expansion mindset that says, I've got to do the 5 old-fashioned things, and I'm going to do the 5 social media. Expand, don't contract, and I'm looking forward to our next time that we get together. Don't forget about the 413 organization. We'd love to have you. Remember, I've had over 25,000 hours of coaching experience. If you want me to mentor you, click on the link at the description and set up a 30-minute business assessment just with me and you. Do it today.